Good morning, Stampers. This is Becky Hahn at Becky's Stampin' Studio at blogspot.com. And it's Friday, so it's our Friday fun day with Becky. This is my third episode. If you haven't had an opportunity to catch the first two episodes, they are over on my YouTube channel. And I would ask and encourage you to share with your friends. It definitely helps to spread the word if you've seen something that you really enjoyed and thought you might have a fellow stamper that would enjoy as well. Today we're doing more of a technique than a fold. Today we're going to do a watercolored angel. I meant to look up, there was a gal that made this design, or these colors at least, she used different colors, and I really loved it, and I kind of took it under my wing and designed my own. So I wanted to show you how you can create these watercolor backgrounds, two different ways that you can do that, how I colored my angel, and so it's more about coloring and I will assemble than how to emboss and that type of thing. So I'm going to start with the supplies you'll need. I'm going to move this. Remember, I'm at beckystampinstudio.blogspot.com, or you can find me on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to, as I said, do a watercolored angel. This particular set is called Angels of Peace. It is in the mini catalog, the holiday catalog, whatever you want to call it. And I thought I had it right here, and I don't see it at the moment. It has these two whimsical angels. This one I have used. This cute little cherub I have not. I saw those and thought these would be perfect for watercoloring. Hence, that's why I am. Also on this page, there are no dies. So where I show her cut out, I've had to fussy cut with my paper snips. And also on this page, and what we will be using is this Merry Melody 3D embossing folder. And so put it together and you get the card that we have for today. These are both on page 42 of the actual July to December is the appropriate name for this mini catalog. So what are you going to need to do this particular version? I have a base of a half a sheet of petal pink. Okay. I have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch sheet of gold foil. I wanted to share with you that, especially when I'm making a lot of Christmas cards or what have you, I used to cut out for all my friends, my stampers, this frame. Okay, you can stick it in your paper trimmer and you can create a frame and remove this piece to use for other items, such as the little frame behind the sentiment here. I now use my stitched, or if you have a rectangle die, you just need to leave enough to put your other piece on top. And see, I usually leave an 1/8 inch showing. I just find it's also less heavy if you've got several layers, especially since we're using watercolor paper, and the watercolor paper is rather thick. So I always frame it. I guess I'm a little frugal as well. And then my next layer here is watercolor. We call it fluid watercolor paper. It's heavier. The only time I personally use it is when I'm going to be loading it with water. It doesn't warp. It keeps the water from getting really, really bad. And I have an older, because it doesn't say fluid, we still sell these with about 8 sheets, I believe it says. 5 sheets, and they're 5 by 7. So this is still the format we get these watercolor papers in. So you're going to need a 3 3/4 by 5. That's found on page 36 if you can't locate it. I used shimmery white for my angel. Shimmery white, I use it a lot. You cannot, it's very, very subtle. But shimmery white is heavier than our regular basic white or basic vanilla. And so it too takes the water really, really well. I use shimmery white not only when I want a watercolor, but when I want something other than stark white. Let me show you the difference. Here's our basic white. here is our shimmer. Do you notice the difference? So when you don't want basic scream at you white, you might want to consider the shimmery white. How does that compare with vanilla? The vanilla has a little more cream in it. To me, this just speaks elegance and softness and what have you. So I have pre-stamped my angel and embossed her in gold and fussy cut her out. So to do that, you need a piece of shimmery white, also on page 36. That's 2.5 by 4.5 inches. And then you need a scrap. When I use shimmery white, I try to use it clear through the card. So I've used shimmery white for the message. I always keep little scraps so that I can do that. And the other thing I keep in mind is, okay, here's the tone of the watercolor paper. Does it work with the vanilla? Not bad. If I do my angel in white, not so good. But notice how well it matches. It's almost perfect when you pair it. I'm one of those that has to have everything coordinate really, really well. So another reason why I used shimmer. Okay. You'll need the Merry Melody embossing folder for this. I had a class this week and we used it several times. It's a 3D embossing folder. I'll be trying to use that for you. For this one, I used Petal Pink and Calypso Coral inks to watercolor with. You'll need your water painters. Some of you may still have our old aqua painter. Our water painters are refillable. They do have a nice gasket in them to control the water. There's a bigger brush, a smaller brush, and a wide brush. I'm going to do this to do the wash on the background. The other option I'm going to show you is to, instead of using the wide brush, is to spritz your watercolor paper with a spritzer tool, which is also on page 129. This is just filled with water. You unscrew the top and you fill it with water. Same with water painters. You unscrew the top counterclockwise. Or clockwise. Used to doing it counterclockwise, and fill it with water. Best way to fill those is to stick it under a tub of water. Okay, so let's get started at creating our angel and learning some painting techniques that I like to use. I have always painted. I had an awesome toll painting teacher. She taught us oils and what have you in Kelowna, Iowa, many years ago. And she started my love affair with coloring and painting. My mother was the other one. She has done some awesome painting, some China painting, and all that kind of cool stuff. And so she shared some basic tips and techniques with me with that as well. May need to refill this. So I'm going to just start building my card. I did plan ahead even when I did my sample. And so I'm going to put this here, like so. And then we're going to work on our background, simply because it will get wet and it needs a little bit of time to dry. I am working on, I keep a foam pad here. So when I'm using photopolymer stamps that don't have a cushion, that I still have a cushion. This is a Teflon sheet. I frequently work directly on it when I'm working with water or alcohol, but I also like my paper here because, yeah, I'm going to show you a couple other things you can do with your colors. So we're going to start with our watercolor paper. I prefer, now let me tell you something here with Becky's watercolor. This particular brush, and I should contact Stampin' Up!, I cannot get open to load it with water. So that's the idea, is not to have a dangerous bowl of water with your work. And so what you do is you just saturate all of your watercolor paper. The other thing you can do, if you don't have a wide brush of some kind, is you can take your spritzer and you can spritz with your water too. It leaves a little different texture to it. You might still want to blend it in. Okay, so it makes no difference how wet your pad is. Then, get this dangerous bowl out of the way. Then I use regular ink. If you have an older pad, this is Petal Pink. I start with a light color. You can squish it. You don't get a whole lot of ink. Oh boy, I get that much to work with. So what I will frequently do is grab the refill bottle, put a little in my lid, and I mean a little. Now, some demonstrators prefer to put watercolor and put their refill ink on a block. Here's why I don't like to do it. First of all, if you add a lot of water, it's going to run over the edges. Second, when I'm done, I can close my pad and this refill ink will transfer or will hold for my next project right there. So we're going to take a regular brush. Yes, this week we used Pool Party. Okay. I will not be able to get this one to look exactly like mine, the current one, the other one, to save my soul. So you can go in circles, but see how it bleeds? If you want, kind of like with alcohol, you can blow it around, you can tip it a little bit to move that across your paper. This is an older pad, Clips of Coral. I loved these two colors together. See? Ta-da. And you can then pull it, just the ink, and you start filling it in. I want this a little wetter. You can control, and you have time to diffuse that out if you want to. I have cut this the exact. Do you want the whole thing covered? Do you just want some of it colored? Do you want to blend some of it? You can go back and mix and lighten. You have to be willing to take what you get. Oh, see, I love that. I love that. Pick two colors that work for you and what have you. So this needs to dry. So I will set it aside. I forgot I still need my stamp set. Which I still can't find. It's in a safe place. So I'm going to set this aside and we're going to work on watercoloring the angel. Okay, set her aside. See how your silicone mat works really well to camouflage all of that? Okay, so I have embossed my angel in gold and I have fussy cut her out with a pair of paper snips. And now I usually like to do her first and leave her intact and then color her and then cut her out once it's done because, yeah, the coloring doesn't really work real well. So I'm going to start with the lightest color again, the Petal Pink. And I'm going to kind of do a wash. You have to kind of look at where is the dress. Here's some hair. I'm going to skip that. And I'm going to do an all over really light pink. Notice I'm just kind of washing it. It's still fairly wet. Remember, the shimmer will tolerate all of that. You can squeeze it, but I'm not going to run the risk of it blopping a real big thing of water for me. Okay. And you can go back. It stays wet a little bit. So there's my pink. And most artists and stampers and what have you guide you with where the shadows are. And that's what you're needing to look at, is where are the shadows. And in this case, it's wherever you've got her little folds and creases in her dress. And that is where you need the little darker color. And again, I want this more wet than dry. Can you see how I'm making a little puddle in my lid? And I do have a paper towel here if you can't see that to kind of, and then I'm going to, in painting turns, we float or we flow along the creases, the highlights, the shadows. That's where Shadows are in the creases, okay? Pick it up some more and just follow all those creases. Now, if it got a little dark, which I kind of feel it did here, add water and wash it. That's why it's called a watercolor wash. And wash some of that out. Again, you could squeeze your brush. I am used to working with actual paint brushes. So that's how. She's got a little crease in her arm here, around her neck. Voila. Now, it looks a little dark and intense at the moment. That's okay. It will, as it air dries, it will get lighter. Now, I grabbed my So Saffron for her hair and tried watercoloring it, and it looked like straw. So I switched to, and I didn't write this in the supplies list to grab, but this is the light So Saffron, and I left a little hair over here that, number one, is not wet, and so I can make her blonde. You could make her whatever you want. I did not do her skin color because I couldn't find one that suited me. There is a little dove or bird in her hand, and I liked orange and blue or complementary colors, so I went with Pool Party. And she's done. Would that take me just... And if you've got one to follow, that definitely helps. You know, so if you've got one, here's this one. And here's this one. See, they're a little different, but same. Okay, same idea. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to start working with my watercolor paper. It's still very pliable, pretty damp. So what I'm going to do is have my heat tool. Could I have done this first? Sure, but I usually have to do some painting anyway. So you dry this a little bit, and you know it's getting dry when it starts to curl on you a little bit. If you recall, when we first got the 3D embossing folders, it was recommended that we spritz our paper, not necessarily watercolor paper, with our spritzing tool. I forget to do that. You get it helps with the fibers. If you're having troubles with, especially some of these really deep ones like the bark, what's another one? The wood grain. Splitting your paper, try spritzing it. It makes the fibers in the paper a little more elastic. So having this damp is a good thing. So we're going to put it in our 3D embossing folder with our music. I'm going to grab my big boy, my stamp and emboss machine. For this one, if you look at your plate, because this is a 3D embossing folder, we need number 1, which is this platform, and we need number 4. That really helped my ladies. And we're going to put this beveled edge in first. What I like about our new machine as opposed to any of the others we've had, you have a little wiggle room. I don't know how many of you have ever sent through these 6-inch embossing folders, caught the edge, and it started to curl or it gets stuck. I love that I don't have to worry about ruining my plates anymore. Okay, once through, we'll do it. Oh, hello. I guess my Stamp and Emboss does not like my stand. My stand doesn't like my Stamp and Emboss. So here we are. And yes, it will emboss this gorgeous, gorgeous paper. It's still a little damp. And in order for it to stick, It does need to be a little drier than what I'm feeling right now. So give me a minute here. Okay, let's give this a try. This is a time where you want to use some pretty heavy-duty embossing or tape, and you want to run it. This is where I like my stamp and seal because it will grab. You want to run it completely. Don't do the 5-swipe rule, which I generally like to recommend. Okay. Oh, I just love it. I love it. I love it. Isn't that cool? Okay, so from here, we take our cute little angel and some dimensionals. Add a little more dimension to it. Before I put her down, I'll show you my thought processes here. Okay. So I wanted a message on her. There's some neat little messages in there. And I first did this big one. This uses the the scalloped contoured eyes. Love this one here in the center. And so I stamped it with, sometimes angels are just good people with kind hearts. I loved that. So I embossed it on shimmer and cut it out. And when I went to put it on, oh, that's good. When I went to put it on the card, it covered too much of whatever, okay? So there's also, you're an angel. I embossed it on a little chunk. I leave all my scraps of shimmer. And then I cut it out. I wanted something smaller. If you don't have these ornate frames, these were with a Halloween collection one time. I love these smaller. This I use a lot. These, oh, I use them all. So this is great, ornate frames. So I decided I liked that. So in my planning, I decided I liked her kind of right here. So the message ends up here. But she looked a little blah. So I cut out the gold. You could use that frame piece. I didn't, because this is so big I can use it for something. I cut the frame piece, and I frequently do this. We don't have, well, we did have a bigger layer for this one, but sometimes you don't. So cut it the same size, like so. Decide which way you want the full effect of your foil or whatever you're using. That is an adhesive that Stampin' Up! Used to sell that I still use a lot because it's repositionable. So if I get these here and I don't like it, I can still kind of move it around. And I decided, since the angel was popped, I'm going to lay that flat. Go back to my seal. Because this is kind of fun. Boy, this is nice and dry now. And I put her right there. Okay, that little message. And then I was a naughty girl. I wanted a ribbon. It needed something. And I'm a naughty girl because I went to an old ribbon. This is a petal pink with a little gold edge to it. You might have it in your collection. I'm sorry. You could color anything petal pink and it would work. But I felt like with the gold, oh, you know, sometimes past things work the best. And I apologize for that. So I put that there. And then I like to add a little scattered bling. And the champagne, the champagne rhinestones work the best. Okay, I had my pokey tool here. There it is. And remember, we work in odd numbers. So let's see. They've got 3 sizes. And I only used the small. And I looked for the open spots in the music. Somebody said, and I do music, as many of you know, I play the flute in a choir, but I don't remember what it is. I don't even remember if it's a Christmas tune or just cause. Something like this would not have to be just for the holidays. Oh, what do you think? Love it, love it. You can do this. Okay, so I was still left with my cool little message. Okay, so, and I do kind of fail at making sure I do something for you guys on the inside. I'm trying to do better. So I placed my shimmer message in the inside, and you have your watercolored angel. Awesome. All right. I have only done one other card with this set. And she is in blue, in Pool Party. She's already been posted to my website, so you can find the directions for her there. She is done on thick white for two reasons. One, my ornate layers cuts out better and thick than it does anything else. I have troubles with, and it's mine. If you have troubles, remember you can take a wadded up piece of wax paper and lubricate it a bit by rubbing it on. So we embossed her first, gave her a color, one color. So my ladies who've been in class this week have already done one color. You can change and go to two. And then we cut it out with the frame. And if you notice on the background, we have the Merry Melody embossing folder. Okay, so what I'm looking for and not finding is, what if you don't want to mess with watercolors? Can I do something else? And the answer is yes. If I could find my stamp set, I have a sample already done. Let me check one last place. It's here. It was open. I missed it. Here's the actual stamp set. What I did is, instead of doing a watercolor wash, I used blending brushes. Okay, now you'll also notice I used white. It gives it a totally different look. So I'm going to show you real quickly how to do, and so then my angel, which I haven't colored, is going to use the same two colors. It will look different on white. It's not thick. So what happens when you don't use a heavier paper? My angel will warp. She'll have built-in wrinkles. Okay, so let me show you how, if you would rather do this type of background. Love these blending brushes. My girls used them last week and they just loved them. Okay, to do these, you don't want big blobs showing up. That's pretty light. Let's add a little bit more here. I try to start off. And if you want, you can pull it from the lid. But when I do that, you can see the ink disappears. Now, this is a newer pad, so it is really smushy. So you can do kind of a dry wash. I don't know if that's a word or not. And you do not want a lot of ink with these brushes. Okay? And so I test, that's why I have my paper, because that wouldn't work with my Teflon. Okay. And then you kind of fill in the blanks. This is a full quarter sheet. So there's this type of background with your blending brushes. And I still ran it through. And then here is you get a totally different look with the water. So I encourage you, invite you to try this. If you see some supplies that you would like to order and you don't currently have a demonstrator, I would invite you to place an order. I do have an October host code that you can use, and all you have to do is either go to my Stampin' Up! Website or my blog, and it will direct you to my Stampin' Store. So thank you for watching. I hope you will give watercoloring a try and share what you do when you get her done. Thanks. Bye-bye.